Before we get into the chart analysis on Riot, I do want to go over this article. It is coming from Top Ranks. Crypto legal victory clears the runway for Riot Platform stock. Now, Riot is a Bitcoin miner, and it's one of the juggernauts in the space. And this past week, we saw the U.S. courts side with Grayscale versus the SEC, who's trying to block their Grayscale Bitcoin Trust from converting into a spot Bitcoin ETF. All right, with that said, let's get into the article. Riot wasn't the focal point this past week, but it was indirectly a beneficiary. Now, Riot hails from Colorado. However, they have a huge operations taking place in the state of Texas. So if you're going to bet on a Bitcoin miner, Riot Platforms is a good choice. This company is obsessed with mining for Bitcoin. For example, they produced 410 Bitcoins in July. That was up 29% year over year. The Riot Platforms achieved this despite what the CEO described as some of the most challenging operating months of the year due to a soaring summer temperature in Texas. Now, this past summer, we saw a heat wave run through Texas. We saw multiple days where temperature surged to 100 plus. That put strain on the electrical power grid in Texas, which indirectly adversely affected Riot's operations down in Texas. Riot also announced that it produced 1,775 Bitcoins during the second quarter of this year. This represented a scale up compared to 1,395 Bitcoins produced in the year earlier quarter. All right, now this is where we get into the battle between Grayscale and the SEC. So specifically, a financial company known as Grayscale achieved what seemed impossible, winning a court case against the SEC. So last year, the SEC rejected Grayscale's application for a spot Bitcoin ETF. Immediately afterward, Grayscale appealed to the District of Columbia's appeals court to get that decision reversed. And if you can believe it, the appeals court sided with Grayscale and overturned the SEC's ruling. This doesn't mean that the story is over, since the SEC could still appeal the ruling all the way to the Supreme Court and or find other reasons to block Grayscale's proposed spot Bitcoin ETF. Now, this is where things get interesting. Obviously, Grayscale submitted their application for a Bitcoin spot ETF prior to BlackRock's. However, BlackRock's is in bed with many of the figures in the SEC world, government world. So what's going to be interesting to see is which application gets approval. It's going to happen. Now, regarding BlackRock, their record for ETF approvals is like 572 approvals to one rejection. So it's going to happen. All right, so this would potentially open the floodgates to accelerated Bitcoin buying activity, while also helping to legitimize the blockchain as a respectable financial domain. Now, what's interesting is that BlackRock is also an investor in these Bitcoin miners, such as Riot and Marathon, to name a few. All right, so let's go to the charts now, and we're going to zoom out first to the monthly chart. And you can kind of see that the last bull market, we saw prices hit roughly $80 before collapsing. So, that would represent a roughly 7-to-1 reward to risk ratio if you bought Riot now, and if it matched the previous highs of the previous bull cycle. Now, we are in, say, crypto spring. We're going to see crypto summer going into next year, as you have the Bitcoin halving taking place, I think June, July timeframe. But nevertheless, you have a major area of support resistance. We're going to say at the $25 even. All right, so let's go down to the weekly chart, and you could see this bottoming out process taking place. You did have negative divergence where price did make a lower low, but the relative strength index made a higher low, right? So that kind of signified a bottom. You could also see where price did break the downtrend. This was your first higher high, and then you had the second or the first higher low, higher high. Price came back to that level, which was formed here, before shooting higher. You could also see that the momentum is to the upside, even though this last leg has been down. It could be just a pullback, as your moving averages are pointing up. You had the bullish crossover of the 13 over the 26 simple weekly moving average. Now we go down to the daily chart. So as price was moving higher, you have a golden crossover. That's where the 50 crosses over the 200-day moving average. And in the process of moving up during this leg, price did form a weekly bias level and a daily bias level. Right here you can see price was sideways price action, and this is what I call a bull trap. So you have your resistance and support traders. When price broke down, you had the resistance support traders selling price, only to be met with buyers at the daily bias level at 925. What makes this level powerful is that it's nested within a weekly bias level at 850. However, price did lose momentum, as Bitcoin itself was once above 30K, saw a short-term pullback. I think it sits around 27-ish right now. But once we broke this support level at the 1720 level, and then you broke another, what was resistance became support at 1450, that kind of opened the gates for further downside price action. So again, this surge occurred on Tuesday. That's when the court sided with Grayscale. I'm looking for price to get down to here. That's where you kind of back up the dump truck. You also have the 200-day moving average going through the weekly and the buyers daily bias level. So let's put an alert at $10. However, the best levels to get long is between, let's say, $8 and $9. Again, that's where you back up the truck. I don't know if price is going to move down further. I'm hoping it does, as this is where the liquidity is. This is where unfilled buy orders are sitting. So if you can get filled here, look for a first test to be the say the $15 level, and then second price target the 20. These are all short-term price targets. Kind of scrolling out to the weekly chart. Third target would be at 25. Fourth target would be at, say, 40. Right? You got sellers here, and then so on. But first, let's see if price can continue to move down along with Bitcoin, as it is heavily correlated, positively correlated to the Bitcoin price. Be sure that I will keep everyone posted in the subsequent weeks and months on Riot. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Please like the video.